Hi there, it's been a week. Let's take a look into the crypto originals, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash again. As usual, we'll cover the Wyckoff stage, potential price trend change, as well as key price levels. These are educational content only, not financial advice. Let's start with Bitcoin. This is the weekly chart of Bitcoin, where I shared many times in the previous sessions. It is going through the second pretty, well, you can say boring or uneventful sideways trading period. It's reached a point that it tested again the 74K, this light blue key level, before it drops back to right below the green key level of 68K. What I shared in previous sessions was this reaccumulation zone. I said when the price dropped to this area between the light blue key level of 74K all the way to the very low level of 51.5K, it is going to be a sideways period for at least a month or two, if not as long as what the reaccumulation has gone through. That's about 10 months in total. So here, still expect the same sideways trading unless all of a sudden liquidity is willing to come back to crypto or Bitcoin in this case again. When we go to the daily chart, we'll see what the trend is going through right now and why it is pausing right here. So from a big picture point of view, my view remains same. It's still getting to its last round of sideways trading before it decides whether it is going to drop deeper to the actual accumulation cycle, or is it really performing this well this round that it starts to accumulate right here. From a volume point of view, I don't see it is going through like a panic over stage. Okay, this stage usually comes with lower volume, not higher, but sometimes there are exceptions, though we need to see the candlestick patterns in order to decide. But at least from a price spread perspective, if you look at here, those price spread, the candlesticks bodies, meaning, are very short. We are still going through not quite short candlestick, not quite narrow price spread, including the wicks. Okay, if we look at it over here, the wicks are pretty short, and the candlesticks themselves are pretty short. But here, the candlesticks are quite short, but not as narrow as the period I showed you just now. And the wicks are definitely much longer. And if we look at the volume, it's definitely still higher than the average of the entire 2025. So it is still a question mark whether it is really starting the actual accumulation cycle. To me, it's more like it's still at the late stage distribution where it has shown a lower level sign of weakness and kind of bouncing up to show us another last point of supply. So I shared before as well, after the upthrust, there were two LPSYs last time back in 2022 before it fully falls back into the accumulation cycle. Right now, we have gone through two already. If the boost really get sufficient momentum to make this bump, staying a little bit higher or trading sideways for 1 or 2 more weeks before it drops, I will still give it an LPSY. Otherwise, like I said in previous sessions, if it drops starting next week or the week after and keep going back to somewhere between the 51500 all the way down to this white line over here, the bottom of the long-term playground, and there is no such thing as SOW and LPSY. Those stages, if it's like a line like this, I'll just take them out. So, time to get into the daily chart. We talked about exiting the downtrend around 25th, 26th of February, right next to this indicative date created by the downward channel ceiling, as well as these key support or resistance levels. If the current uptrend is true, okay, notice what happened, or what is actually happening right now, is that today's candlestick is trying to stabilize around the 68K line, this level. It is trying to not force through the bottom of this uptrend that started 25th, okay? So, if the bulls successfully defend this, then there's still a chance for the price to go up and re-challenge the 74K, passing the ceiling of the long-term playground. Whether it can break through the 74K, it depends on whether volume can get into support. Because if we combine the volume of yesterday and the day before, those selling volume was actually higher than what we had on the 4th, on Wednesday, when the price shot from 68 to 74K. Okay, so it basically reversed what happened on Wednesday. So I would say, as of this moment, the bulls and bears are more or less at equal strength around this 68K line. That's why we're seeing this kind of sideways movement for quite a while. While, in the short run, for the past 5 days, we seem to see an uptrend, but it is getting to this testing point now. Let me plug this over here. This is pointing towards the 9th of March. So, essentially what it means is that in the next 2 days, when the price edged closer to this bottom, okay, this support of the channel, only 2 things can happen. All right, either it finds support and at least trade along this support, not necessarily go up to challenge those key levels again. It can stay there for a couple of days, edging towards this triangle before it comes to this decision moment. Or it gets rejected by the green line, the 68K, and falls through this ascending channel. And when that happens, that means it's going to retest the 63K support line. And this is going to be the 3rd time after the price dropped to that level back in February 5th. Okay, so this, I'll give another pointer over here that's pointing to the 16th. All right, so that's for Bitcoin. It's still, I'll say, undecided at best. Okay, looking at the volume, it's definitely a little bit higher. It can be redistribution. Okay, if we go back to the bigger picture, I'll put it over here. We have reaccumulation before price goes up, and we can also have redistribution before price goes further down. Okay, because a lot of people might have bought the dip, and the whales have some stocks to sell to these people. Okay, that's what it is. So be really cautious if you try to get in now. Manage your stop loss well. Next, we're going to Ethereum. Again, starting with the weekly chart. For Ethereum, I haven't plugged in these stages yet, but definitely it is still going through the accumulation cycle. All right, let's take a few of these and go and plug in. All right, so that's definitely dipped to the bottom and reclimb to a new buying climax. So we have the buying climax right there. And then we've got a bunch of second tests after the automatic reaction. So automatic reaction means after climbing to the peak, maybe people selling, taking profit, whatnot, the price drop back before it comes to test another round. In this case, at least in this cycle that started August last year, there's no upthrust yet. Okay, there may not be an upthrust because the price has gone back to basically the accumulation low. So no PSY2. Let's say PSY happened over here. You see this red candlestick, the early selling by the whales. And eventually we've got the sign of weakness and the last one supply. So you see the price drop sharply with high volume back in the beginning of mid-January, and then continue over February. And now it is stabilizing somewhat. At this stage, I would say it has potentially entered the preliminary support stage where the panic sell kind of getting close to over, and the whale is starting to get in. So let me plug it in over here. All right, so you see these high volume over here. That's definitely panic selling, right? Whales started to get in. Okay, look at this one with the highest volume, but with a very long wick at the bottom. So somebody with deep pocket must have gone in, that support the price. But the selling wasn't over yet until lately, the past 3 weeks, where the price is trying to stabilize around the blue T level of 1950. Ethereum may have gone into the panic over stage. Okay, look at what happened across here. So you see a lot of these rainbow lines, but essentially I have two boxes drawn. One, this white box, assuming there's no inflation factor, all right, the long-term playground. The other is with inflation factored in, this yellow box. If this yellow box holds true, look at the lows over here as well as here. Ethereum now is very close to the bottom of this yellow line. You can see the wick, right? Those wicks over here. It's getting very close. So one thing I want to highlight is that while Ethereum is seemingly entering the panic over stage, it doesn't mean the test of paper hands by the whales during the accumulation cycle is not going to send the price deeper. So if we look at Bitcoin, if I go to the past, you can see the panic over stage over here, and subsequent tests can go deeper. So that's what I want to point out to you. For Ethereum, same case. After the panic over stage, if we are really getting into one, don't expect the price won't go deeper than the 1950. There's still a risk over there because look at what happened over here. These long wicks from the top, even this week, signals to us that the bears are still very strong around the purple key level of 2,135. That's why they knocked the price down back to the 1950. The volume is higher than November all the way to January. Okay? Higher than the average of the previous 2 months. So if you buy the deep, expect either you set a stop loss or you are expecting you can basically eat the loss up for a while, or suffer the loss for long enough for the price to get through the accumulation and go up again. So it depends on your appetite. All right. If it really goes to the yellow line, like I said, from the current level, it's around 20% drop. So if you tell yourself, okay, 20%, I can suffer it and wait for, a couple of months, then the price go up, no problem. That's one way. Or you set a stop loss at about, 5%, 8% lower. It depends on how, or, what has been your trading practice and what's your targets, right? So from a big picture point of view, to me, Ethereum has entered the accumulation cycle. Just depending on whether it has reached the panic-over stage yet or not. If it has, the next stage is the automatic rally. That means the bulls and the bears are going to set a trading range stop for this accumulation cycle. All right, that's going to be somewhere there. So I don't know, maybe the red key level or the orange key level before it comes down and bounce, shake out paper hands before it goes to the next distribution. But that's what happened over here back in 2002, 2003. All right. The quick one was there back in, spring to early summer last year. So micro view, Ethereum. Downtrend, it has started basically around September last year. Yeah. It's a very long time. It's not like we've just gone into this sort of, people say, bear market. The downtrend started. No, you can still argue that was a sideways until September dropped to this light blue key level 3840. Okay, it rebounded and then that's where it started the trend. So let me adjust this, make the box tighter. All right, somewhere around here. Okay, it looks good enough. So while it looks like it is going through a sideways trend, it hasn't technically finished with the downtrend yet. The dates that it is pointing to where we can get confirmation the downtrend is over. The most optimistic one, if miracle happens, that Ethereum shot up from this point to there for 35%, challenging the yellow key level of 2700. That's March 11th. Let me copy one of these and put it here. So that's a crazy, crazy positive scenario in just a few days. Next, still positive, highly stretched, is about March 27th. All right. So if you are wondering what these means, if you're new to my sessions, you'll see the ceiling or the support or the bottom of up in the case of uptrend. Okay, downtrend we look at the ceiling, uptrend we look at the bottom. Where it crosses those key levels, those are indications when price may change or confirm trend change. Okay, because if we just look at what happened, let's say look at here for the past 2-3 weeks, we may say, oh, it has entered horizontal trend. From a very micro perspective, you're right. But if we zoom out like what I'm doing right now and look at the channel, the bigger channel that lasted for months, that's definitely not the case. So back in October last year, people may argue, okay, it's stabilizing, it's going sideways, it's going to go up. Now it got shut down and then sideways during the end of last year and January this year. It tested the ceiling of the downtrend, get rejected, and then started falling again until it hits or get close to the support or the bottom of the channel. Then it do this sideways again. Okay, it's repeating the same pattern basically. So once the price gets closer to the ceiling, we'll get the confirmation whether it is going to drop one more time. Okay, like I said in the weekly chart where I talk about the Wyckoff stages, after the panic over stage, the test can still go deeper. So this points to near the end of April. Okay, of course, there's one over here around the 9th of April. So I've got a lot of dates being lined up. But looking at what the price is doing right now, staying or being suppressed below the purple key level, the base case for the positive side is April 24th, okay, to get a confirmation of trend change. But if it's like just neutral case, bouncing between the blue key level of 1950 to 2135, that points to the 8th of May. So this is for Ethereum. Right? If you ask, because the current trading range is obviously the light blue key level 1800 all the way to 2135. So if it drops again and trades along the light blue key level, that's going to get into 20th of May. So even further down the timeline before we get a confirmation that the downtrend is over. Okay, I hope that's clear enough. Now it's time to move to Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash, from a bigger picture perspective, we talked about two things over here. The Wyckoff stage, definitely it has gone through the sign of weakness. We have gone through this many times. We referred to those sign of weaknesses back in August, September last year, and then we've gone to similar level, actually lower this time, in the beginning of this month, end of last month. Actually, it's end of Jan, beginning of Feb. We're in March now. And then it did a rebound. Lots of supply. Whales offloaded. The price shot down. Volume wasn't really crazy compared to the length of the candlestick, but still high. Higher than average of, the third and not fourth quarter, but mostly second and third quarter. All right, in 2025. Currently, this rebound we're in this week, the volume has dropped further. So this long wait happened 4 weeks ago. Things might have changed after this long red candle just last week. So the price came to challenge. The second thing that I haven't touched yet is this yellow dashed line that we've drawn. This was the uptrend support. Okay, you see the uptrend that started April 2025, rose all the way until it fell through in late January. And now it has turned into resistance. It showed clearly in the past 3 weeks that, knockdown, heavily knockdown. And it is trying to set a stage between the 427 and the 482 key levels, the orange and the yellow. If they successfully make another climb to re-challenge the 482 closest near it, I'll give it the LPSY. Like I said in the beginning, for Bitcoin. If it continues to drop, there's no point putting these two tags just to make the chart more busy, okay? You can see what happened over here back in December 2024. Okay, it rebounded once, range bound in this narrow gap before it got shot down with these long wakes and go to in deeper, testing the 2700 blue key level and the 320 purple key level. Stabilizes over there, accumulate, and then climb back to the current cycle. So it's halfway through now that it's potentially starting to get into the next or the new accumulation cycle, but it's still not finishing the distribution yet. We are in the transition. Okay, so the next would be the panic sell and whales buy period, where we would see some situation like this. Okay, red candlestick, with long wicks from the bottom. Okay, that's when whales get in, when people were like crazily, panically selling. We haven't seen this yet. There's a short wick over here, Some people might have gone in early, but expect another drop to come. All right. That's Bitcoin Cash in the big picture view. Let's go to the micro. It broke outside of the downtrend mid-Feb. we pointed to this exact date where it set an intermediate level, across these ranges. And then eventually on that date, the price broke out just to get shot down. Look at the difference in terms of volume. On Feb 13, this is the volume. Okay, let me pull it up. But 24th, when the price get to this wedge, the tip of this wedge, I'll get back to this later. That price drop, look at the volume, much higher than when it climbed. That's where the pressure came. Subsequently, 2 days, very high volume still. But the bulls and bears, you see this long wick from the top, while it was kind of neutral on the short red candle day. This one, that selling force from this intermediate resistance, that light blue dashed line, is massive. Okay, that's where we are. And let me take away this one. I said I'm going to go back to this line, this wedge over here. So this wedge, we talk about when we get closer to the 24th, we get an answer. An ascending wedge is a bearish sign in candlestick pattern analysis, okay? So from this little climb over here, through this support, testing the top, and getting narrower and narrower and narrower into the tip, that's where we get a confirmation. It got shot down, okay? And lost the yellow key level back to where the price tested the bottom of the downward channel back in early February. You're basically around the same level as of this moment. The volume has been declining gradually. Okay, so expect horizontal trading between 427 to 482. That's the base case, but be careful, like I said in the big picture in the weekly view, that if this is really ending, this distribution cycle is really ending, it is going to drop back to the accumulation. So we don't know how deep this can drop, because I said, I think many sessions ago, when I talked about Bitcoin and how Bitcoin Cash seems to be shadowing Bitcoin, if Bitcoin is going through the redistribution, trading sideways, Bitcoin Cash may follow the same. So they may go in tandem. If both gets to accumulation eventually, that's when that would happen. Not that I'm seeing it now. What Bitcoin Cash is doing at best right now is staying, try not to fall back to the downward channel. Okay, you see it's trying to find support over here, testing this channel ceiling multiple times, and then set foot above the 427. The immediate threat may be over. So from this point to the ceiling of the downtrend, there's still like around 9% buffer before it really drops back to the channel. So it may not go back to the previous channel, but it may start to develop a new one. So if that's the case, if this has triggered a new downtrend, we can draw a new channel just to see whether it is actually behaving that way. Okay? It is going down at a different rate than before. Okay, that's close enough. All right, you see, this is what's happening right now. So if this is really the case, the dates that it is pointing to, remember I said downtrend, we checked this ceiling against the key levels. Okay, uptrend is the bottom. So this points to the 12th of March. Let's say if the next few days, the price continues to drop slightly, trading towards the edge or the tip of the triangle, in 4 to 5 days time, we'll get an answer. Okay, either it breaks and goes outside of this downtrend, or it gets rejected and goes below the orange T level. Okay, that's how I see the chart now. So it's time for me to get to another session. Here's another analysis for you. Hope you like these grouped sessions where I put all the themes together, but at the same time, keeping the limit to just 3 coins together. So when you search, the title and thumbnails are still clearly showing you which 3 that I'm going to talk about in those sessions. So the next one will be there in about 15-20 minutes. See you over there. Thank you. Oh, by the way, remember, you can access these sessions 2 days earlier if you join the other membership. If you join the other members that are already enjoying this feature now. Cheers.